Welcome back to the Better It Gets podcast.
Ooh.
Today I have my dear sister Robyn Chance on.
Mm.
And Robyn, I'll just say before I give her proper intro, I was connected to Robyn earlier this year and I was sent her Instagram. Someone was asking if she could come to a party I was throwing for New Year's. And I saw her Instagram and I'm like, holy moly, like this woman's art. And I had seen her art over the years. I actually like made a post with one of her pieces of art and it really opened something in me and we immediately hit it off. And yeah, you can see if you're watching the actual video, you can see some of her art in the background.
Yeah.
And yeah, Robyn is a visionary artist whose work bridges the tangible and the unseen, offering collectors more than just visual beauty. Her paintings are portals to self-discovery, personal empowerment, and transformation. With a background spanning the performance arts as a music video dancer and international choreographer, her creations offer the perfect balance of stillness and movement. She blends esoteric wisdom with vibrant, sometimes unexpected hues, evoking a sense of wonder and emotional resonance. A near-death experience in 2006 deepened her artistic purpose, making each piece a strong vessel holding the frequency for healing, expansion, and many other inspiring and therapeutic codes. Rooted in both the jungles and shores of Hawaii and the vibrant energy of her hometown of Austin, Robyn's art graces luxury retreat spaces, private collections, and transformational events. Her collectors describe her work as a bridge between the seen and unseen, the artist and the muse, the temporal self and the infinite. Whether through original paintings, soul portraits, or large-scale commissions, each piece is an investment in beauty, in devotion to raising the vibrational resonance of a space, and in the timeless power of artistic alchemy. Welcome, Robyn.
Oh, thank you, Zoe. Thank you for that. That was beautiful. I know. I loved it when we first met. Our knees buckled because we were laughing and giggling so hard. It was such an instant recognition.
Yeah, we're like, I love you. I'm keeping you.
Yes, that's how I felt. I squealed.
Yeah.
It was
And I will
funny.
I will say for the listeners too, Robyn's art is all over Austin. Her and I had met for cacao after we fell in love on New Year's. And right after our moments of deepening over cacao and her sharing her story with me and her near-death experience, which I'm sure we'll cover in this episode, I went to a yoga class just spontaneously and I walk in and her art is hanging in the studio, this huge tapestry. It's also her art was also in the cacao shop. And she had no idea her tapestry was in this yoga
I
studio.
didn't know.
So her art is all over Austin. It's at all the events. It feels like just like in her bio, it is this portal between realms and it really does bring a space to life. And even now, like I'll see her art and I'm like, oh my God, this art. And then I'm like, oh, it's Robyn's.
Best like reflection an artist could ever get is that somebody is emotionally moved by it, the way that I was when I was creating it. That's the
Mm,
that's the best reflection ever.
yeah, and I
Oh.
want to dive into your emotional, prayerful process as you create these masterpieces. But first, I want to hear about where it all began for you and how you came to fall in love with artistry. Like, have you been painting since you were little? I want to know the whole story.
Yes, yes, I have been painting since I was little. I mean, everybody is an artist. Everybody starts out at least with finger paints, right? Well, I did the same. I was finger painting on my mama's kitchen floor. I remember she had everything laid out so that I wouldn't make too big of a mess, or that I could make a mess and not destroy the tile. I still remember it. I must have been like 2 years old, and I just played with everything that I could, and it was so much fun, and I've been doing it ever since. And I really feel like everybody has that in them already. It's just a matter of whether or not you keep doing it. I'm not necessarily more talented than anybody else. I just kept doing it because that's the thing I wanted to do. And I would write books. I would like tell stories and draw the book and write the book and staple it together. And I'd hand it to my parents and they would be like, oh, wow, what is this? You made a book, Robyn. They don't really talk like that, but they kind of do. So that kind of like validation, oh my gosh, that goes a long way for children whose love language is words of affirmation. And at that point in my life, it was. And so I was like, woo, keep going. What else can I do? What else? And my dad had a comic book store. And so I had access to like every Marvel character, DC, everything you could think of. And I would like draw X-Men. I would draw Wolverine and like Rogue and Storm and Cyclops. And I would get the bodies and they were very, a little extra, you know, not very many people actually look like that, but at least it gave me some human anatomy ways to practice. And I felt like I was getting closer to my dad in a way by doing that. And, you know, every little girl wants daddy's loving attention. And so he would give me so much praise for it. And so to some extent, I don't even know if I did it for me or for dad. But at this point, if I'm still doing it, I'm pretty sure I'm doing this for me because I just love, love, love to express myself creatively. And I love to paint people. That's my favorite. I'm behind me. This is like a background. A person may or may not go on it. I don't know yet. This might be the first time I don't paint a person, but I just love painting people because that's where our emotion is translated through and from, and nature too. I like to put nature in the paintings too. Like this one, I painted that probably like 10 years ago, and I'm about to change it. So lock it in your memory now because it's not going to look the same soon. And it's already in print, but you see there's nature and there's some light language. And it's just,
Well, she's already on my water bottle. So
that's right. That's the one that lock it in. That's going to be worth something, that sticker, because it'll be there. It won't ever be that again. It's going to change. It's going to become more hyper realistic the way I paint now. So that's my story in synopsis.
wow, babe, I'm literally like I was sharing with Robyn before this episode. I'm in very late luteal. I'm very emotional. I'm like tearing up because of how similar our stories are. And when I saw your page, when I feel your art, I feel so inspired because all I want to do is paint. I think about it every day. I have like one of my paintings I haven't finished right here. I also grew up painting and drawing art for stories and showing my parents, and my dad was my biggest fan. He actually just got an art piece that I made on a plastic bin cover that's been sitting in his garage since I was 7. He just sent me a picture that he got it tattooed on his wrist because he's always been such a big fan of my art. He's like my number one fan. I didn't know either about you. Like, wait, what?
Thank you, Daddy.
And yeah, I love that you like really, really fully honored it. And I'm curious because your art, like it is profound to witness, one of your pieces. And I'm like, did you go to art school? Did you learn proper shading, or did you just keep running with your own intuition with it?
Go to art school. But you know how we all have like art class in elementary school? Okay, I totally had that, just like everyone. And then in high school, you have different electives each year. And one of the years I took choir a few years, and I took dance, and I took art, and I was in advanced placement art 2 years in a row here in Austin at Anderson High School. And that, yeah, Miss Rutt and Mr. Garza were the two art teachers at the time, and I would bounce back and forth and just skip school and like skip classes. And I'd be
Wow.
in those art classes just practicing, and yeah, whoops,
Wow,
sorry.
I wish I had that in high school. It's like
Oh, I
I
don't
never
think I
wanted to
was
be in school.
supposed to do that, but I did it anyway.
Wow. Well, because you're so new.
I
And so
did.
have you been
I
you've
knew.
been painting since you were little, and you've kept do you always have a painting going? Like, what is your devotional practice with your
Yes,
art?
I probably have 7 or 8 paintings going, actually. They're not all here. Some are in Hawaii in storage. Some are even on display because they look like they're finished, but they're not. And I know they're not. But like this one,
Mm.
this is not done, but I printed it. I think it's like an exercise in humbling myself and just letting something get out there before it feels completely done, because it's better to give some code than no code. And
Oof.
and I've done that with other things. I've held on to it because I was being in perfectionist mode, and then it never came out. And the sister painting to this one is one of those. It's a woman on a horse, and it's like, oh, people need this even though it's not perfect. And so I'm learning. I'm still learning.
I like to say the opposite or the antidote to perfectionism is authenticity.
Amen.
So just letting it be authentically what it is, and
Yes.
knowing, just like we are, we're always works in progress. We are these masterpieces in motion, but we're never like fully finished. However, we can feel when we're ready for the next piece. And
Yes,
yeah, how do you
exactly.
know when a piece is finished? And
Hmm.
what is your process, your prayerful process? Because I know that you have a beautiful way that you bring these pieces to life and a formula, and that came from a place of despair, and it's become something that has been such an anchor point for faith.
Yes, yes, hugely for me. It's been an anchor point for faith to the max. So what I recently discovered in the last few years was that I couldn't get it out on the canvas. I'm looking at either a blank canvas or a background that's already dried. And I'm like, I can't hardly breathe. And I'm not in a place of starting the painting yet. So what I learned to do was, I lit some sage, Palo Santos, and I was just doing this and clearing myself, and I switched it to my right hand. I'm like, okay. And then my hand goes towards the canvas as is. And I'm like, I'm writing with the the charcoal tip of this Palo Santos. And I just start writing, and I ask God if God's here with me. And I'm playing with all the spellings of God, G-O-D, G-O-D-D-E, to imply goddess or something in between, or the amalgamation of all that is. And I was like, are you here? I can't feel you right now. And I was hoping that by doing that, I would start to feel something. And eventually I did. And my English language started to turn into light language. And the tears were flowing, and I was creating symbols, and I started to feel so much better. I could breathe deeper again. I was like, oh, okay, I can breathe. I can breathe. I can start. And then it got me to the frequency that I needed to be in order to channel. Another time, I was already in position and I was fine. I was doing great, but I wanted to write a specific prayer and affirmation for my dear friend, Yahuel. I was doing a soul portrait for him, and there's like this morning prayer that he had every day, and I superimposed that into the background of his. So his portrait is got an affirmative prayer in there because that's where we started from. I didn't need to start from pain on that particular piece. It's usually my own that I'm starting from pain. If it's for somebody else, everything's taken care of because the payment comes in before I begin their painting, typically, right? So when the down payment comes in, now everything, my physical reality is financially provided for so that I can start high vibe. Yeah.
Right. There's a container.
Exactly. And then with my own, it's full
It's
freaking faith.
chaos.
I don't know what's gonna happen.
I have no containment for all this feminine Shakti.
None. I gotta figure out how to be my own man. And I can do it, but damn, it's hard. So I start with the fumble fuck prayer, and I'm just like, here we go, I got this. And I get there. I get here, I should say. And then I start that. So yeah. And then sometimes, like this one, I don't know if you can tell, but there's chalk. Like, I can just start writing in chalk on something, even on top of it in light code, because it might not be, so it's not just underneath, it's in all the layers. One of the paintings that you liked, the prayer, it's called the prayer. And I was like, I had to set up a camera to record myself crying while I was doing it. That, let me just say, That is not easy because you don't forget the camera's there. I was like, if I leave it up for 2 hours, surely I'll forget and it'll be fine. No, I never forgot, but I allowed myself to become overwhelmed. I started writing words in the midway. I wrote the word home. And because I was sitting on the floor in the third bedroom of my mama's house, because she is so precious to take me in for 2 months while I'm trying to transition back to Austin, I was like, I really needed my own space and my own home. And my mama was so good to give me that space. But writing it down, like, it took my dirty to fucking make me cry again. And then, yeah, the camera's on and it doesn't matter because I was feeling it genuinely and devotionally that this is what I'm calling in. I'm also calling in divine union, and I'm calling in sustained abundance. And I'm also saying in that when I said, God bless this mess, because the mess is part of it. And that's what I build up through. So any painting someone gets that I've done from dark to light, they are literally investing in the leading edge of human consciousness and expansion. Because it's like, it becomes an encapsulated frequency of what it looks and feels like to go from all the way down here to all the way up here. And then you have that on your wall. And when I sleep next to my own art or have it above my bed or something for me is just like, it's like, oh my God, I made a time capsule. I made something that brings in remembering every time I look at it, kind of like my angel candles. You know, if I said a prayer on an angel candle, every time I see it, it's a remembering, like that prayer. And the prayer is what I am now, and I know is true. And I can move mountains from here.
Yeah, babe, it is the anchor point that required such deep devotion and such a transformational process that no one will ever know the depths of in the way that you and God know that process. But it's like this union with God in order to become impregnated with the vision and then to birth it. And then that process of being the vessel, being the channel, clearing whatever's in the way so that it can pour through, and sometimes how painful and devastating that can be
Oh
and
my
and
God.
feel to bring it through. And so your art's not just, oh, I'm putting colors on a canvas. It's like, no, there is a lot of alchemy that had to happen in order for this code, for this transmission to come through, and you're the vessel for it.
Yeah, I had to die a lot of times. I've lost track. And I'm sure so many people can relate to that, because anything that we want to bring into fruition, any kind of creation we want to bring, there's a part of us that has to die or to be laid to rest is a gentler way to say it. Put it to rest so that it can move out of the way and God can come through and create it. And when you have stuff in your root chakra that's not fully grounded in, it takes a little more effort, you know, or maybe we're not clear up here, or maybe we're not clear here. And sometimes just
Heart. Yeah.
the devotion to saying, I'm going to go to that dark place wherever it is in me, and I'm going to be with it. I'm going to be right there
Yes.
with it, and I'm going to be curious about it and not judgmental. I'm not going to try to change it. I'm not here to change it. I'm here to love it. Oh, who said that? Matt Kahn. He said, whatever arises, love
Arises, love
that.
that.
I got to
Yeah.
hug Matt Kahn once. I'm forever still a Care Bear, but he's my Care Bear bro for that.
Oh, yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes, whatever arises, love that. And allow it to become part of the art. If you're devoted to the masterpiece of your own becoming, allow your art to be an extension of that. A download that came through the other day was I meet myself. I love and honor myself exactly where I am. It's all part of the divine plan.
Mm-hmm.
Your art can't really come through from that place that touches the deepest pockets of another person if we're not descending into those deepest pockets within ourselves and being with them instead of trying to change them. One thing I love to do with the canvas too is when those emotions come up and I feel like I'm like they're not expressing themselves. They feel stagnated. I feel disconnected from source. I'll grab a canvas and I'll take my fingers into acrylic and I'll choose the colors that represent what I'm feeling
I
or
love
what I'm
this.
experiencing. And then I'll take them and I'll rub my fingers as like a sensual practice all over the canvas as my background. And then at some point I'll start the painting on it.
Do that. That's the way that everyone should. That's like little kids finger painting.
Exactly.
That's
And
where
then
we
you can make
begin.
a masterpiece from it, but let it be an emotional process first.
Yes, yes. Oh, right there. That's the code. Just go back to childhood. It doesn't need to be a perfect, realistic painting. It doesn't start there.
No, let it start from from
Wherever
your
it is.
child self, from your
Yes.
raw self. Yeah.
Exactly.
And allow yourself to be transformed by it. And exactly what you said earlier, it's not about it being perfect. It's about feeling whatever needs to be felt in the process of bringing it through. And this is something that I can liken to the launch process of even launching an offer, launching something new in the world.
Yeah.
It's that I literally go through a death process. I meet so many of my own edges. It feels so vulnerable, to have this vision from source, to be like, "Ooh, I want to launch this thing." And now I get to create all of the momentum around it in the marketing, and I get to invite the women that I know will be served by it. And it's so vulnerable. What if no one signs up? What if I don't get paid all the time and energy and devotion they put into this thing? What if I look silly? What if, it's like all these what ifs. And I feel like that's such a massive part of the creative process is learning to have this really fierce faith. And I know this is something you've been practicing lately too with your angel candles. And something that we were talking about before the episode is that part of being an artist and being multi-passionate, sometimes there are, and very feminine, sometimes there are these dry spells with
Yes.
finance, with financial provision and resource, and the money maybe flowing through in a way that allows us to feel nourished enough to keep going. So I would love to talk about that with you because I know, and you just shared that you wanted to land back in Austin. You were with your mom for 2 months. I know you've been going through a lot of alchemy around that. So
Yes, I have.
whatever you want to share.
It's so, anytime you go through a huge transition, I've been living in Hawaii for 13 years and I'm from Texas, Houston and Austin. And I was transitioning back to Austin for more of the year, not fully, but like more often. So I'm still navigating that. And anytime you go from having an entire life, home, car, community, everything in one place, and then needing to have a home, car, and community in another one, it's like, that's a lot to juggle. That's a lot of bills. And if you really can't choose, it's like choosing between mom and dad. And I come from, my parents separated when I was very, very little. And so I'm like, well, which one do I pick? Both, and there's a tearing. So I can't, it's hard to just choose one, which would be what everybody would say. Well, pick one so you can ground in and gain momentum from the root up. And because that is not as easy for me to do, the last 3 years that I've been doing back and forth, it's been harder, but I was living off of credit and not realizing that's not smart. Can't do that. And then, and I went from my 850 credit score and it started seeing it going down and down and down. I'm like, what do I do? I got to change something. I got to shift something. And so I moved into with my mom and I was like, Mama, just hold me for a minute. Okay, I got this. She's like, baby, I believe in you. You're going to be fine in no time. Just do your thing. And she goes off doing surgeries every day. This woman is she's one of my biggest cheerleaders and she always has been. Her house has all of my old art on the walls, like covering every wall. So when I'm there, I'm like, oh, that's old me, my old vibe all over my mama's walls. And she loves it because she's my mama.
You're her baby.
Yeah. And then I go visit my dad and my stepmom in Houston, and they bought one of my pieces that was like $20,000 piece. And yeah, and they put it in one of their rooms that is considered my dad's like trophy room of all of his beautiful, expensive comic book statues. they moved the curio cabinet out to put my art in. And the thing is like 10 feet long. And I was just like, I felt so supported. And I remembered that. I remembered my family supports me so much. There's no reason that I shouldn't either. So I was on the floor crying and doing that painting called The Prayer and just feeling like this is so hard. God, where are you? Why aren't you helping me? And then I start to see little things like what my parents are for me. And my inner parent started to develop too, because there's, our parents aren't always perfect. So we have to develop the inner parent to make up for that. And that's part of the process too. And dancing, for me, if I don't move the energy around in my body, it will get stagnant and stuck. So I would go Zouk dance. I would offer services. I would teach free beginner Zouk classes, intro to Zouk
I came to
classes.
one.
You did. That's right. Oh my God. And you came in the season where no one was going out dancing because the roads were like icy at the time or something. And it was like cold and nobody was like trying to dance. They're trying to sit at home, watch movies by the fire. And you came out. And this last one was a lot better. A lot more people came, tons. So I'm going to keep doing those. But the point being is I was in my service. I reduced my bills down and I started to really look at the things in my life that were going well and how I am universally supported, and by friends like you who are like seeing me clearly and seeing my vision and seeing what it is I can become and saying, I want you on my podcast, and things like that really reflected and mirrored to me what I know that I am. And it's just a process that we go through, but I'm not in that now. Like I was in that a couple months ago, 3 and 4 months ago. And even just a week ago, I was like, and now 3 commissions come in. well,
3
well,
big commissions came in.
I guess someone was listening. So I'm good now. It all worked out, but it's from the angel candles, because I'm fire. And every time I look at the fire that I lit, I remember the fire that I lit within when I lit that candle. I even write in the wax before I light it. It's like a thing for me. So you got to have your own ritual. That was mine. And then the prayer all the time, and then the meditation, because you got to listen at what comes in. So it's that's it. And movement, and just letting that be the thing. That's what happened, and now here I am, and I'm able to relax for a few months now, quite a few months actually.
Yeah, babe, I'm so touched to witness the process because you were absolutely in this chrysalis, and I felt like there was
Mm-hmm.
me included. It's like God speaking to you, your angel speaking to you, speaking, reflecting your brilliance and inviting it into more spaces and amplifying it. And it feels like not only was that being reflected to you, but you also showed up for the ritual
I
of
did.
getting into alignment with it and getting into deep prayer and, like faith it till you make it,
Yeah,
right?
I faked it till I made it. Oh yeah, you know what
Yeah.
else I did? You know where I have these built-ins over here. You know where the TV's supposed to go back in that big section, and you're
Hmm.
supposed to put the TV there. I made that whole thing into an altar. It's like that. That is my TV.
Babe, that's beautiful. It's the devotion to your vessel. It's like, and creating the space for it, creating the
Mhm.
altar, creating the container, like we were just talking about. My roommates actually just left back to Bali for 2.5 months. They're here for half the year.
It's just
And
there.
in Bali,
Hmm.
yeah, we'll be there for a month this year for the first time. Yeah, starting June 24th.
Amazing.
Yeah, but so I had a priestess sister over here the other night, and she walked up into, I see everything as God. I see everything as provision. And sometimes when we're on these parts of our path, we're like, is this my path? Like, is it what am, like I'm feeling these desires, but please make it abundantly clear. And it's like, it's really important, just like what you shared, to pay attention to the proof that's here,
Yes.
pay attention to what is going in that direction, what's going well. So she came over her boyfriend at the time was coming to cook us like this Gordon Ramsay meal, and she comes up to I give her a tour of the house, and she sees that we have this second living room and it's idle. No one's using it. And she's like, "Oh, this room needs to be used." And I show her my art that's on an easel, and I'm like, "I think about coming back to this painting every day, and I haven't touched it in 2 months." And she's like, "Honey, you need to make this into your art dance studio." And I'm like, "Oh." And then she goes, and then I'm like, "Maybe one day we can have a painting night." And she goes, "Let's do it right now." And I had all these blank canvases. So her and I set up as the men are cooking dinner. We set up our canvases, we start painting, and that activated this whole portal where I almost finished. I'm working on this fox woman right now. Similarly, I like to paint women. I paint a lot of naked women with
Yeah.
animals and
Yes.
cosmos and the elements.
Love
And the
it.
beautiful thing about art is like, and then the other thing is there's a sister I met in Austin this one night where I shared with Teddy, I'm like, my art wants to come through. All I do is think about painting and art and merch. And he's like, let's go to this warehouse where they have a bunch of art and let's just look and see what's there. And we go, and there was like no art. There was one booth. And this woman, she like, her name's Totsi something. She lives in Austin. And I just saw her art and I felt her soul. And it moved me so deeply. I'm getting, okay, emotional again. It moved me so deeply to feel her soul in her art and see it like on prints, like prints on the sweaters and different things. And I follow her on Instagram now, and whenever she posts like a picture of her in front of like a wall of her art, I feel so much emotionally and I'm so inspired. And then I found you around the time that this was like popping open, and then I see your art and I'm like, and it just, the conversation around art and creation is so moving because it's your expression of your soul, of your connection to source, and you invite people into that frequency of source when they see your art. It's such a devotion to life to be able to bring your art through. And so I'm really happy that you are experiencing the commissions. And maybe this episode, for those of you listening, if you want to see Robyn's art, it'll be listed here, but just so you can feel what we're talking about, because it really is about feeling.
It is so much about feeling. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to encapsulate that journey inside, and then you have that to remember every time you see it. We're so aesthetic and visible, like a visual as people. We're looking at our surroundings. Our surroundings is what helps keep or break a vibration. We need all the help we can get, all the support. And when you make something like that, it changes me when I make art, doesn't it? Don't you feel that when you make art? Don't you feel like I just created something beautiful? Like this art piece behind you, that is really pretty. Where did that come?
Which one is it?
The one with the butterfly on her shoulder.
Oh yeah, this is one that I started like years ago. This is one of the ones where I started with the background, just finger painting. And then she came through, and then I started doing like sacred geometry and her butterfly wing. And
Oh,
I feel it's so sweet to witness because I feel like that's the point. Art is supposed to transform you in the process. It's not about being good at it. It's about being moved by it.
amen. 1,000,000%. I cannot get that through enough, because when you really make it about that, I promise you there is someone out there that's going to love it, but it doesn't matter. Do you love it?
Yeah, and are you moved by the process of bringing it
Yes. Does it bring
through?
you to tears or not?
Yeah, and
It does for
does it
me.
change your, like you said, your DNA? Does it like
Yeah.
upgrade you? Even when I launch an offer, I have an offer called Dripping in Devotion coming out right now, and I literally
Ooh.
felt like a new woman right
Yes.
when I launched it, and then God gifted me the curriculum. My beloved takes me on this special getaway trip, and we're flexing our devotion literally the day I launch it. So it's like when we say yes to life and when we say yes to these creations and these visions, it's like God goes, okay, you did the hard work. You were courageous enough to be vulnerable enough to bring this through. Here's the gold stars. Here's the
There
curriculum
you
in real
go.
time. You're a
Yes.
new fucking woman.
Yes. Yes. That's how I just became a new woman. I'm just being of service, service, service. I'm just giving. You want tapestries at your party? Here we go. And it does. It comes back. I'm sure that's what's going on. It has to
Yeah,
be.
babe, because you just brought your tapestries to a friend of ours party, and now
Mm-hmm.
he's ordering,
Yeah.
he's making a big order from you.
And I love him. I'm so excited. So yeah, like really aligned commissions, and actually two aligned commissions came from that birthday party. There was another one too with Johnny and Krista, and they are, oh, I can't wait to share theirs as well. Yeah.
The
Yes.
path of service, the path of heart. Yeah.
Yes.
And the way in which I wrote this in my story the other day, genuine service will always leave you resourced. And then your
Mm,
connection to source. And it's like if you have those two things and you're letting it move through you, you can't even help but to be reciprocated and resourced.
full
It's
on.
so cute because the brother who you're doing an art piece for, I actually channeled. Okay, so when that sister opened that art portal at our house, I just got back into my artist, and then I channeled this whole hat for 2 hours. I'd never made a hat before, and that was the hat I gifted him on his birthday. Yeah, because the mysterious force of love. And he's wearing it right now as he's traveling to our dear sister's birthday party. And he keeps sending me that every day. People are just like, can I buy it? That hat's dope. Da da da. And those have been flirts from God. Like, hey, babe, continue with your artistry. And those
Yes.
for you too. Hey, babe, continue with your artistry. Big players want to purchase your pieces to activate their spaces.
Yes, there's codes in there. There's so many codes.
There's so many.
It's just and you know what? We just haven't developed the instruments yet to quantify how much code is in a creation that we make. That's all. We don't have instruments that, maybe we have Kirlian photography, and it shows like the aura around something, and there's some kind of a device you can hook up to plants that you can hear the song and the frequency of plants. But we need something that measures the radiance that comes off of original art or the hat that you made, because they do glow different. And if you've ever done psilocybin on accident while live painting and freaked out and ran under your table and hid from everybody, and then you slowly came out and you stared at your art and it started to come alive. I mean, I'm the instrument that knows it's alive at this point. But they're
Oh,
alive. They're alive, and they go to where they belong. That's how you know they are a breathing entity, and they go where they're supposed to go. The originals have so much power. And then if you don't, like, when an original is sold, I make a canvas giclée print of it, and then I go in and I enhance it myself.
what is that?
I
What
can
is a
take
canvas?
a giclée is a canvas print. It's a fancy French word, giclée, for a print, but it's done really beautifully and well. So,
So you do the original and then you put it, is that like a digital thing that you put it through and kind of touch it
yes,
up?
it goes through
Okay.
a scanner. Okay, we scan the original, and that's a high resolution image produced from that scan. And then we print from that scan.
I've
And then,
always been so curious.
yes, and so then it goes onto a canvas, and then you can buy that, or you can give it back to me, and I will paint over it with all these different textures, clear coats, gloss coats, matte, sparkle, shimmer, anything, whatever, gold leaf. I can put anything on it, and now it's been zhuzhed up again with love and
Wow.
intention. I could write on it. I could do whatever, and then give it back to the client. So that's
So
another
beautiful.
thing that we can do to keep all that life in something
Right.
that may have lost it in the printing process.
Right. Yes, I love that. The sentience of the original piece. The original art glows different. I mean, there's
It
so much
does.
metaphor. Yeah, totally. There's so much metaphor in art. And I feel like the quantification comes from the amount of devotion and how much of yourself you poured into that piece, like that prayer piece
Yeah.
that you just recently did. I
Yeah.
will link. So recently, Robyn did this piece and she vulnerably shared her process, like she was sharing earlier, and it moved me to tears. It moved a lot of people to tears, and the painting is stunning. So I will link that reel here too, just so you can feel what we're talking about and have a
Yeah.
visual of it. Um, but
Thank
I'd
you.
love to dive into this piece that you have discovered around neurodivergence and sensitive people, and this process of like regulating the nervous system and being able to be this vessel, like whatever you want to share around that and your process with that.
Yeah, so I am an undiagnosed neurodivergent person. I'm not sure which thing, and I don't really want to call it ADHD because that last D stands for disorder, and I really don't find it to be a disorder. I think, if anything, the system and the culture that we're living in is what's disordered. Um, I was vaccinated as a child, so I probably have all kinds, who knows, family did the best that they could, but no vaccinations since childhood. We're not doing that anymore. We're taking care of the vessel so that it can be clear and clean. And I do my best with my own system so that I don't give myself any chance to get worse. You know what I mean? I want to keep sinking into the feelings that I'm going through and creating rituals and routines and a pace. Like what we both like is spaciousness. That is like the biggest therapy for me, is to schedule in spaciousness, like literally put that in the schedule. Like I'm not doing anything for this amount of time so that whatever needs to come through can come through. And if you're living a creative existence, you better have that if you want to bring anything to life.
I always say feminine brilliance comes from spaciousness.
Yes.
So I love that you're talking about the prioritization of that, and just the way, babe, that our whole flow has been. We've been planning to do this episode for 3 weeks to a month, but the timing wasn't fully clicked in. And I'm so grateful that you operate in that way too,
I do.
of we pace with space.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Mm-hmm.
move from what feels congruent. And if
Yes.
we had recorded then,
Uh-huh.
you would not be in this space now where you can share, because you just had three big wins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huge
and
ones.
that's the path of the artist. Like you're saying, you can't feel what wants to come through you if you're in this rat race hustle culture, trying to
Yes.
keep up with the system.
And I was in that rat race culture when I didn't have enough to finance me through, and I was constricted and scared. And we don't have anything in our culture right now or in our society that provides and protects beings that are in at the leading edge of creativity, or even mothers, like anybody in creativity, anybody that is raising children. So that could be single fathers too, because they need to be a mother as well. That's farmers too. They're creating something. There's certain kinds of people out there, pioneers, engineers, anybody that's bringing through the next thing and to birth it and give it, needs to have everything taken care of for the amount of time that they're going through that. And we don't have
Right.
that. I'm sure there's nonprofits out there. There are, but it wasn't accessible to me. I was trying. I reached out to I put my hands in every basket that I could, and I tried, and I gave, and I served, and I was like, oh, how about this? It was like a grant or something, and I didn't get it. And I could have sworn I was going to get that grant, but I didn't get it. So it turned out I'm okay now, but just going through that process and feeling the grit in my stomach, it closes down the channel. It closes it, and it feels like shit. And it's like, you almost start to wonder, God, why aren't you helping me with this? It's the worst. It really is the worst feeling ever for me when I go through it. And that's why sometimes I just need to paint that feeling or write the feeling, write it out. And also dancing helped a lot. But I wish that we could just at least get the conversation started, because I don't know what this solution to this problem looks like, because I don't have the system's mind, but somebody out there does, and could do a study on a group of women and children, people, creators and innovators, and watch how they operate naturally by the moon cycles. What are they doing? How are they doing it? What do they need to stay open? And then they take that and they create something that is conducive with it, that will support it sustainably. So that's good for humanity. But in capitalism, I don't know if we have room for that in our mind here. And anybody else who feels like they don't have what they need in order to relax so they can channel, you're not crazy if you're frustrated. We're just early in validating how important it is to have, not just for ourselves, but for the collective for human evolution. We need it. We really, really do need to start valuing and honoring those that are creating anything. Because that's what, how else are we going to get anything else in? Hello. We're like the shadow hunters. We're like in the ethers. Like, what's next to bring into form? How the
How are
heck?
we creating culture? Yeah, and birthing this new paradigm and bringing through the transmissions and something. I mean, I love this conversation around it happening on a collective scale and this being like incorporated in the larger hive mind. And
Mhm.
there's such a beautiful resurrection of the union template of like men who are in their masculine system structure and they are craving to be with feminine women who are vessels for God, creation source, goddess love, who want to create the systems and the structure and the container for you to unfurl, not only because they get to drink in your radiance and it's like nectar for their nervous system, but
Mhm.
because they see that the goddess is moving through you. They see that
Yes.
you are divinely ordained to bring through this frequency and transmission, and they know it's part of their mission and purpose to serve that.
To serve that. And we are channeling that and they protect it.
Yes.
You know, that's what it is. But when women, if we are doing that to the man, we lose connection to God, to source, and now we lose ourselves. The feminine must stay connected to the most high and the most low, everything, and learn what's going on, what's happening, what am I, and then he translates it and creates a world that protects that the inflow of that information so that we can build a world that everybody is harmonized and safe and happy and continually bringing through what's next for human beings to know so that we can continue to live sustainably with ourselves and with each other and with nature. And we're the ones that bring that through. And men can bring it through because they have feminine aspect in them too. So it's not to say they can't. Some men, they need, that's where they need to be. You know, they're like, especially I have a dear friend that's a single father and he needs that support because he's mothering his four kids too. So
Right. It
there's,
goes both ways.
it does. Yeah. There's room, there's feminine in everybody, and that aspect of us is what's bringing it through, and we need it.
Yeah, this brings me to the next question. What would it look like for your genius to be nourished instead of extracted?
It's such a good question. I think it would be to feel supported in the process. So it's not just like, what can you make for me, but how do I keep, what do you need for the truth to come through, for the love to come through, to look at and like what we're saying, like what does the artist need in order to thrive rather than what can you make? Because when we are provided for, protected in our energy, essence, and physically, literally, financially, we can relax. And then what comes through is going to be the most epic and beautiful and aligned thing that needs to come through. And that's the support that I would want from whatever kind of setup we could create. I don't know. I don't know right now. I'm just barely like opening the conversation and planting the seed for others. There could be some decentralized coin of some kind that I don't know. There's, yeah,
I'm also
just
picturing like ethical billionaires or ethical millionaires who have like a
angel
plot of
investors.
land and there's like a village culture mindset
Yes.
and everybody knows their roles and their functionality, all in service to the Most High, all in service to
Yeah,
love.
I love
And
that.
it's like every one of us has our own blueprint. Every woman has her own vessel of creation, her own connection to her womb that she
Yes.
can't really drop into and be in that cyclical flow if she doesn't feel nourished, supported, provided for, protected. So she's got to
Yes.
be on the lookout and her nervous system can't relax. So yeah, I'm like the ethical millionaires who have this plot of land and she's got her Venusian temple or whatever helps to evoke this frequency of source that comes through. And then, and then she can also be resourced by offering that right through the exchange with
Yes.
money. And I've been
Yeah.
in this deep resurrecting and retemplatizing with the energetics of money. And last night I actually went into this really beautiful ritual. And what was coming through is that money is actually really Venusian.
Mm.
We know that
Ooh.
money is of Venus, right?
Ooh.
Venus, the one of the characters, money, abundance, but that it is like this Venusian luxury. It's paper. It comes from the earth, it's from the trees, but it has such value that we quantify similar to art, right? In these numbers. And it's like there's this beauty to it. And I think for so long we've seen money as this like dirty this dirty taboo thing, but what if we could beautify it and create
Mm.
this like sensual lovership with it and infuse that into what we're creating
I love
and
that.
right, retemplatize the
Let's
way that
do
we
that.
see money and resource.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. To beautify it. I love that.
To
Zoe,
beautify it,
let's do
right?
that. I'm totally in. Can we make it
Yeah.
colorful too? And sparkly?
Totally. Like, how can we make it all more beautiful? That is our path. That's the path of
Paint
the
Venus on it?
feminine. Yeah, we're anchoring Venus on Earth.
I love that.
Um, Before we wrap up, I want to go into your near-death experience. I know that that's, a deeper dive, and I'm going to give you as much space as you need for those codes to come through. But, I know that that's profoundly shaped your work in the world too. So I would love for you to share about that.
It has. It has definitely profoundly shaped my life. Do you want the story of what happened, or do you want to know how it's changed my life? Because one story is going to be long and the other story is going to be half as long.
If you tune into your heart and womb right now, what feels congruent with the moment?
I mean, I can always share the story of it, because the deeper story carries so much. It carries so much, and perhaps I can bring it through in the time allotted. So I'll do that. I will share. I'll just let it come through.
And if it goes over a little bit, that's okay. This is a very deep topic
Mm,
and a very big part of your journey.
it is.
Let's
It's huge. Near
give it
death
space.
experiences. It was such a validation. And the story begins with I had gotten pregnant when I was about, I think, 25 years old. And my partner at the time, he and I were going through something very difficult. And every time he would exit the relationship, my blood pressure would spike. And I would be so sad to know that he's with someone else. And I would throw myself to the floor crying. Eventually, I had to go to my OBGYN. And he said, every time that you threw yourself to the floor crying, the baby would detach a little bit from the uterine wall. And so he said that I needed to have what we call a DNC. A DNC is the same thing as an abortion. It's just that you have to have it because you're compromised. The mother's compromised. And I was losing my baby. So here's the thing. So with that, know that. And then I'm going to rewind a little bit. So the night of conception of my baby, I I found out a few days later that a boyfriend of mine from high school, and who had remained to be one of my best friends, had passed away that same night, the same night of conception. And I had this strong feeling in me that his soul went into mine. So to hear that I'm losing this baby was very, very painful for me. It was a very sad thing to hear. And also, if I'm being honest with myself, I didn't have the means to provide well for it because the father wasn't, taking care. I tolerated things back then that I will not tolerate. So I'm walking towards this clinic with my mama. I come back to Texas. I was living in LA at the time. I was like super into salsa and LA scene, and it was a lot. And I came back to Austin to be with my mom, and that's where my doctor was. And then I ended up going to this clinic, and a clinic is not the same as a hospital. Hospitals, they have anesthesiologists and the whole nine. I think I had a nurse anesthetist, and I don't know what equipment they're working with there. But what ended up happening was I walk in and I felt instant deja vu when I was walking into the room where I was going to have the surgery done. And a part of me was like, I'm going to die today. And then I was like, what? And then a bigger part of me, another voice in my head says, not like that, not like that, not like that. And just, I like, okay. And I moved towards the bed and I lay down and I'm in trust. I'm in full trust. And then it comes back again. They put the mask on me, the gas mask. And I remembered again, I was like, this is how I'm going to die. They're going to over anesthetize me because they don't know how sensitive I am to drugs and medicine and stuff. That's what's going to happen. And so I relaxed a little bit. The voice said, calm down. It's okay. Just be here. No matter what happens, I'm with you. I was like, okay. The voice started to slowly chill out the anxiety and said, okay, I'm just going to like let the mask off my face a little and not take it as much. I'm like, and I'm just going to pretend I'm out before I am. And then I'm going to dose myself. I thought I was going to dose myself. Anyway, that was my last memory before I was deeply under. And I don't know how I got there, but I was deeply under. So they're working on me. And this is when I felt a tiny movement, like a tiny pressure, no pain, just pressure in my womb. And I was aware of it. And in 0.5 of a second, I made the decision to flinch. When I flinched, not from pain, they thought it was from pain. I felt this energy through the vein, up and out the top of my head, because they put it in the vein too. I didn't know that I had it here as well as here. So they came around to give me more anesthesia, and I go right up and out the top of my head, and I am everything that ever was and ever will be till the end of the universe, which there is no end and there's no beginning. It's all and it's everything. And yet there's still more. And I'm up here and I'm using my English words right now because it's so hard to like put a word, to translate a word to what I remembered that I am. Here's what comes to mind. I knew it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew
I am
it.
everything.
I'm everything. God's been with me this whole time because I am God. God is what is us doing all of this, figuring out what else there is to know and be. I'm like, I know it. He tried to tell me this other shit. So I was like, okay, here we are. It's me and me. And it's me and everything. I was the doctor. I was the nurses freaking out. They're like running around trying to get the alarm to go off because the flat line, the desaturated alarm was going off, and they're trying to figure out how to turn it off. It's perfect. Where I am, it's perfect. Everything is happening exactly the way it's supposed to happen. I'm there on the table. I have no attachment to my body. I mean, I know that's me, and I love me. And I love everything else in existence. I love the air in between us. I love my mom who's in the waiting room. I'm the door. I am the space, and I'm all of it. I could have moved them like a puppet if I wanted to.
Wow, that's so interesting to try to put myself in the perspective that you were in of being all of it, but still having perspective of what was happening.
About crazy, right? To try and explain this, but I'm there with it all, and everything was perfect. I didn't need to move anything or anyone, and everything, the most darkest demonic things you could ever think of, it's all part of it. It's all part of it. And I'll say later why this is what addresses my art, and this is where I paint from, That's why I can go to the darkest places within me and bring them to the fullest light within me, because I've been shown and I remember. So anyway, I'm in the room. I'm everything there ever is and ever was and ever will be. And the words that I can use to describe that, because there's not very many, I would explode. I would explode if I could actually tell you what it is, what I am, what you are. Love, like love, one, like all is one. That's not cliche. Like it's true. It's all one. And then home, like that's home. That's the real home. This is like the experience that I'm having. Even though I feel so home in this body and I don't want to die, I want to be here. I want to stay, but I'm not afraid to die because I know I'm going home when that happens again. And I was so blessed, and I had a different experience than some people. There's all different near-death experiences. Some people say they saw Jesus or they saw loved ones, and I think that's so sweet and so beautiful, like, because there's different dimensional places you can go to, ascend to. I didn't get that. I didn't get to have anybody to see, because I was all my ancestors. I was Jesus. I was Mary Magdalene and all of the disciples and everything that there. I was the source. I went back to the source. So guess what? I didn't see the light. I saw darkness everywhere because I was the light.
Wow.
Like everything was sparkling and beautiful and dark.
Interesting. Wow. And so just to backtrack a little bit, so does that happen sometimes where people are over anesthetized and then they can
Yeah.
leave their body? Wow.
Apparently that does happen.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love to know more people who this has happened to in this particular way, because I don't know many. I haven't met anybody that's died like I did from being over anesthetized. I've heard people being in car accidents or the final stages of cancer and then coming back, like Anita Moorjani. Her story is amazing. I highly recommend you checking in on her story. Incredible. Okay, so what I also wanted to wrap up was that when I was out of body and everything's going and everything, and that sadness I had felt, that deep sadness that I had felt not being supported by my partner, and also that my previous boyfriend slash best friend had passed away the night of conception. What I realized when I was up there was that I am him and he is me. And what he ended up doing was coming through me to take me into the place he went, because he went to die and I came to die, and to show me that he's not dead, that he's as alive as he's ever been, and we're made of the same stuff. So it was like I got this huge blessing when he left. He brought me to where he went, and I got to realize that from that point. So it all wrapped up full circle, full cycle. Yeah.
What balm this is, babe, for anyone who's lost anyone, for people who are grieving, to actually feel the experience that you went through and the beauty and profundity of that.
Yeah. And then it's shifted. Another cool thing happened. We had the celebration of life for him at Casa de Luz here in Austin. And this was about 20 years ago, I guess, or maybe 15. I think it happened in 2005, I believe. And during the celebration of life, I did my very first live painting of him at the celebration of life. That was my very first time ever painting live. And it was for his friends and family and all of his loved ones that were there to celebrate him. And his parents still have it and they cherish it. And just recently, his mother, she's like a second mother to me. Her house was in a thing that got exploded. There was an explosion next door and her house exploded too. And they were able to go and rescue. The painting survived without a scratch, and they were able to get the painting out. And so we have it still.
Wow.
Yeah, of
Full
Eric.
body
Mm-hmm.
chills.
so much full circle happened in that. And I really wanted to not leave you guys hanging on the sad piece, but it came back full circle. And now I meet all kinds of Erics in my life, and it's always like him winking at me in a way.
So beautiful and precious.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you for sharing that story with us.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's whatever curriculum experience you need to kiss God, and I feel that there are certain beings that need to have an experience like that. And something you were saying is like, I always knew. And I really actually want to share this piece because I also had what I consider a near death experience. My body didn't actually, I don't think, flatline, but I was in such a place of trying to refragment my soul. And ever since I was a little girl, and you can probably relate to this, and maybe those of you listening to this can too, I couldn't figure out why I was in a human body. I couldn't figure out time and space. I couldn't figure out what like the boundaries of it were. I used to ask my mom, I'd be like, Mom, am I going to be in this body forever? Like, how do I understand other people's perspectives and what is time? And I don't, and I was so freaked out by being in a human body. I would cry about it. I would have panic attacks. I would freak out. And that led me to searching and taking lots of, mushrooms and psychedelics and numbing out throughout my high school years. And then I went on this huge spiritual quest of like, I know there's more and I need to know what the fuck it is because I can't settle into my human experience until I know. I don't know what it is. I'm going to keep following the breadcrumbs. And I wound up being with this Hawaiian shaman who had sexual interests with me, but I was so vulnerable and on this like new, this spiritual quest that I wound up going and doing a soul refragmentation session with him. And then he looked at me and he goes, I think you're ready for this medicine. And he's like, it's usually like I charge a lot for it. It's this shamanic medicine. And he mentioned something about a toad. He like gave me options. And I was like, okay, God, like that's the thing is there, it's so beautiful to see everything as God. And sometimes there's a naivety to it. And I feel we all have our own curriculum with learning how to be discerning with that. But he gave this to me and I ingested it and immediately everything went infrared and I shot out of my body and I was in full fractal like and in I couldn't make out thoughts but I was like, oh my God, this guy killed me. I was like, I'm dead. And it lasted for what felt like so long and I was everything. It was everything. And I was like, and then thought like consciousness was kind of coming back and I'm like, how am I already back here? I was like, how am I already back here? I've been searching for this my whole life. And I felt fear. But I felt comfort. And my whole life did flash before my eyes. And I felt like I ended it with this guy. And then my consciousness started coming back like slowly. And all I could say was, what about my mom and sister? They don't exist. I was like, wait, it's all just one. It's all just been me the whole time. They don't exist. And all I could think about was my mom and my sister. And then I came back into my body and the whole room came back and I realized I didn't die. And I started hysterically laughing for 30 minutes. Like hysterically and cried. And for 3 months, I couldn't fully comprehend the human experience because I'm like, wait a minute. And then that led me to another thing with this prophetic experience where I had this other quote unquote shaman who was like, Zoe, you're not who you think you are. We're all one. I am you. You are me. Time doesn't exist. And I'm just like, oh my. And then that created another ego death. And I'm like, oh my God, how do I function as a human knowing this? Who else knows this? And I'm like crying. And my mom comes up to me. She's like, baby girl. She's like, because she's, I've always been such a seeker. She's like, just come with me to this yoga ecstatic dance. And I go with her. And that's the night I met Teddy. It was like this whole... And then I was like, oh, this is the next chapter of my life. Because I literally felt like I had died. And it was like reborn to this gnosis, to this remembrance, this homecoming, to this oneness. And it shaped the rest of my life similar to you. It's like always knowing that thing was there and then touching it and then going, whoa, how do I honor that while I'm here and help people touch that?
That's the question, isn't it? there's no wonder we have this connection. No wonder I squealed and my knees buckled and hit the floor when I met you.
To share these pieces because these are big. They're big pieces, and these parallels are so sweet. I've been tearing up this whole episode.
This is so good. This is so good. And I love that you cracked up laughing the whole time after you came back to yourself and grounded. I laugh all the time and I make jokes and I have voices all the time, new stuff. And when I came back into my body, by the way that I came back in is because they screamed my name. They screamed it loud. I'm shocked that my mom didn't hear it down in the waiting room, but they go, Robyn! And I go, and I came back into my body and I erupted in laughter as well.
I have chills everywhere. Holy.
What happened, knowing full well what happened, but just wondering what they think happened. And they're like, you're fine, everything's fine. They had the trembling fear in their eyes. If they got in trouble for over anesthetizing me, they'd shut down the clinic. So of course they were just like, you're okay, you're fine, everything's okay. They wheel me into the next room. My mom comes in and she's like, what's going on with you? I'm like, Mama, I just died.
Oh my God.
Laughing, I couldn't stop. Like, I was like, Mama, and I told her the whole thing, and she's like, hang on a minute. She didn't even let me finish my death story. She left the room because she's a nurse too. She's an RNFA. So she like goes in there. She comes back. She's like, you're not lying. Like, dude, why am I
So
gonna
did you flatline on the system and they saw?
Yeah, full on flatline, gone, done, son, done. I mean, there was enough of me there that I came back. There was some
right,
kind
and you
of
heard
accord.
your name too, so you're like,
yes, I responded to my name, and I would love to tell anybody out there who has a loved one who is about to leave, okay, and they pronounce them like unable to hear. They don't have any faculties. They can't hear you. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. We can hear you. We can hear everything. We're aware of everything. So if you can tell them, I forgive you, I love you, please forgive me, anything you need to tell that person so that they can go further and higher up, please do it. Please tell them what they need to hear, what you think they need to hear, and what you need to release in the most loving way so that they don't get trapped in these in-between places and stuff. Just give them all the love that you can. I really, really do want to tell people that about any loved one that they say they can't hear. Yes, they can. Yeah, the soul is listening all the time.
Oh, that makes me like immediately just think about my grandma who passed earlier, like not even a year ago. And when I knew she was passing, because she was so vibrant and alive, like weeks prior, I had just visited her and brought her all this Lebanese cabbage that I had made her. And it was like God knew that was going to be our last visit with her. So we like made her like her Lebanese food. And when I heard she was passing, I just like felt so connected to her spirit. And I went into my like little altar cave and I just tuned in with her spirit, and she just wanted her favorite music and roses. So I like loved on her with roses, and we played Tony Bennett. And then when she passed, we were playing Tony Bennett and we were like considering getting tattoos for her. She wanted to get a tattoo with me. And then literally the song goes, I love you like a tattoo under my skin. And then we went and got tattoos of her name. And yeah, it's just, I remember being in such a ritual with it. I had a women's circle on Magdalene Day and I just let the grief rip through me and I felt her. I had a whole song to her death. And even now when I listen to it, I just cry.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful.
To ritualize it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, your sweet grandma.
Yes, it
Okay.
Yes, it grandma in Lebanese.
Oh, I love that.
Babe, thank you so much for your heart. Every time we connect, I feel like we're in tears, even if it's just the
I can't help it. Everything.
laughter, just hitting all those super tender pockets of humanity, mortality, cosmicness, divinity.
Yeah, we got to cover this range, baby. We're here for the range.
So much range, so much spectrum.
So much spectrum. You are a multifaceted woman, Zoe. You are next level priestess, opening up spaces like this. for people to share. Oh my gosh, I honor you so much for the space that you create and for the way that you hold this prayer for people to come in and to shine, and the way that you have your vessel too, that beautiful vessel call. That was so lovely. Everything that you're holding that space for, you are giving, just handing out permission slips to people to be who they are.
Oh.
You are truly. I
Thank
admire
you,
you so
babe.
much and I love you so much. Thank you.
So much too. Thank you for coming on and sharing your medicine and your magic and your heart. Your heart just always pours through so uninhibitedly, and it's so refreshing. It's so refreshing to be in the love with you.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, babe. Robyn was also on in my membership, The Vessel. She came on and did a transmission, and the women were so deeply moved by it and
Oh.
messaging me for the entire 2 weeks after, just like, I was so inspired by that call. And so,
Oh,
yeah, if you're not a Vessel member and you want to jump in and you're a woman, you will get Robyn's replay and you can come pulse with our range in the space. We've got
yeah,
a new theme every month.
it was so fun.
Yeah, Angel, is there anything else that you feel in your heart you want to share with the listeners?
I just want everybody who is listening and who's, watched till the end of this, that they really let themselves feel what we're saying, what we're talking about, and to allow themselves that space to create whatever that looks like, whether you're creating a business or creating a new platform for something or creating a work of art or a music or a song. There is support out there. We're figuring out how to do that, some of us more than others, but it's supposed to happen. It is supposed to happen, and you're not crazy. We're just early, and more is coming. And there's been so many points of validation in just being of service I've noticed in my life, that, like you said, it's the universe brings it right back to us. So to stay in the feeling sensation of knowing our worth and that we deserve it, just really, really, like multiple times a day, if you have
Let's breathe that
to.
in. Let's breathe into what Robyn just said. Knowing your worth and feeling it deeply. Let's just take a deep breath in those. Yeah, Robyn, I'm so inspired and so deeply moved and cracked open from this conversation, from being in your presence. I've had tabs open on a few different things, and I literally feel the sentience of them like tugging me from this conversation, from what you've opened. And so thank you for coming on and giving that permission and speaking into such poignant pieces for all artists. And where can the listeners find you?
Well, I communicate a lot lately on Instagram, so at Robyn Chance Art, and my website is robynchance.com. So those are the primary places. I'm on most of the socials, but those are the main two places.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your heart and your art, babe.
Of course, of
And thank you
course.
for joining us today.
Thank you for having me and playing along with me. I love
Yay.
you.
I love you so much. Mwah. And thank you to the listeners. We love
Yeah.
you. Mwah.
Yes. Go play, go create, y'all. Go ahead. Get off the screen now. Go do something fun.